I mean, it's about favoritism. It's not about merit. Yeah,
That's
it's
totally
just time.
understandable.
We don't have the time. Just like I don't have the time here. We don't have time. Can you hear me, Vansilli? They said he wasn't good. I can't confirm or deny. I will just say that. So yeah, there's anti-poaching, but like if you know the game, you know the game.
So it's time to bring in Frost, Hector, man, ex-coach of 100 Thieves and now coach of Nearest Airport. How's it going, buddy? It's been a while since we had we had an opportunity to speak with each other. The last time we didn't have enough time. I don't think we'll have enough time this time either because we just love to have conversations with you.
All good.
So let me know. First off, how's things been going in like the tier 2 scene growing with Nearest Airport? And secondly, what are these trophies behind you?
Oh, those are all like all the F3 stuff. Actually, this office is going through some renovation, so that's kind of what that is.
Nice.
I think this is like a dream hack. Wait, this is like a dream hack.
I think that one's a dream hack. Yeah, that seems like a dream hack.
That one's dream hack. That
I don't think Omen will give you a trophy for dream hack.
Yeah. Anyways, there's a bunch. Omen, no. Omen was the HP Omen challenge or whatever.
That's
where
it.
We played Mouse and like Markelov got like wind and like water in his face.
Chat, if you guys don't know, by the way, because you guys probably all know Hector Rosario from, like I just mentioned, in Valorant with 100 Thieves and Nearest Airport, but he also used to run a team with Flipside in terms of Counter-Strike and also Rocket League, if I'm not mistaken, as well, for those two esports titles, and then now eventually going into Valorant in the past 2 years.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So how's it been with Nearest Airport so far?
It was an interesting transition. I was helping a team in another region. So, kind of funny story.
We love the Hector stories. Let's go.
I was kind of doing both.
Okay.
So, and I've been doing that for kind of a long time now. But the Nearest Airport opportunity came because most people don't know this, but Aleko was supposed to play with us in Berlin, but didn't because, that's a story for another day.
So we're talking about 100 Thieves here at this point.
Yeah.
Okay,
so Leviathan, Aleko,
was
supposed to play with us then. He was supposed to be, part of the Berlin squad. Obviously didn't happen. Subsequently went to TSM. Trolled, in my opinion, but it's fine. Went to TSM, and then, whatever happened. So everything's been happening the way it's been happening.
Yep.
And Bancroft, I had recruited Bancroft and the 100 Thieves at Cat. Oh man, this is actually this is stuff we never got to on the 100th episode because we were gonna get to this.
Yeah.
I'll breeze through that like super quickly.
All right.
There's a world, there's a universe where the 100 Thieves Academy, which I wanted basically even before First Strike, because I knew practice would be the way that it is now in NA, where nobody takes it seriously and everybody just runs it down, would be this bad, that I ended up, first it was Phoenix 1, so Zekken. There's a world where Zekken ends up on the 100 Thieves roster, because Apex, Rude, Zekken, Precision, King, all those guys, I saw that coming way before anyone else, right? So
that's Noble team then back then, right?
Well, no. First it was Phoenix 1, then they became Noble.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So once Zekken went to Xset, they rebranded as Noble. Yeah. And then obviously they were our practice partners. So what I would do, Apex has talked about this on Twitter a lot. What I did then was I basically made them our academy team, unofficial academy team. So like I'd go over like the scrim before, like, hey, look, we're going to hit this site this many times. We're going to work on this. We're going to work on that. I need you to do this. Sometimes in the middle of the round, I would make it hard for Josh by telling them basically where we're going so that they can be stacked, just so we got all the different looks. And so I use a Noble roster, which is why that Noble roster against us was so close. I think Masters 2 in 2021, they knew all our stuff. They knew how to counter it. They knew what we were doing. They knew what the walls meant, what the orb cloud meant. They knew everything. So they were it just was unfortunate we ran into them, but obviously we made it through. I believe Asuna popped off, if I'm correct. No. That was against V1 where he dropped the board. Anyways, so, all that stuff. So I was pretty ticked off when I lost Zekken Trust me. You don't even want to know. It ultimately led to my demise, I think, at 100 Thieves because there was this constant back and forth between me and management always about the direction of where things should go.
Yeah.
And June 2026, June 26th, they were like, all right, we're gonna have an academy team now. All right, build one, right? So at that point, I had like a ton of. If I showed you this, oh no, I actually think I did show you
You
this
did show
list.
me. No, you didn't show me shit. Don't ask me for
Yeah,
me to
sorry.
leak anything.
All the killers, you anybody, all the cryo, your Xanders, all your killers are now separating themselves all across VCT. Those were all iterations of players I wanted. All of them from the guard. Guys,
Yeah,
it is insane. So, anyways, Bancroft was on that list. So Bancroft and Python, who were on those lists, eventually it just kind of happened that Bancroft and me talked. Because he's like, look, you're not really doing much. Or, sorry, I was with Torify with ZMM Silver. When we beat T1 twice, by the way, TSM, I'm with them, right? So I'm helping them. This is like because they went to my alma mater, so they're playing on the FIU team. So I've been babying them forever. And Torify was on the unofficial 100 Thieves scrim team with 7. Oh, this happened later after that June 26th thing I told you about. This is like in August, or no. We're preparing for Masters 2. This is in July at the Dallas facility. I created a scrim team with 7, Torify, Pure VNS, who's on Knights, Jovi. Obviously, Jovi was my analyst, but like he was a former Rainbow Six Pro player for Flipside many years ago. So when Valorant came out, I was playing with Jovi a lot, which is how Jovi kind of got his start. So I was like teaching him all the tactical FPS stuff and all that. So Jovi and Boy, that's how those guys ended up as 6 men because I know they knew all of our stuff because they were around forever. So that was an unofficial scrim team. That's where I got like with Torify. So Torify got an offer from Fusion. So that meant that experiment was over. So we had one Masters run where we beat some of those teams or whatever in January or whatever, and then ultimately flamed out. Lack of experience. I mean, a lot of those guys were college kids, so it's like the fact that they can even beat professional teams with professional salaries is, in my opinion, that's like NA.
So as you explain this right now as well, Hector, and I wanted to maybe have your thoughts as well of what's going on with 100 Thieves, because when you were in a position where you were coaching 100 Thieves, you're trying to build an academy team, but you're also telling me that there was a lot of friction between you and management, right, to try to get the vision that you wanted, best value of what you had or what could be possible with the roster that you have with the Asuna, the Hikos, and the Nitros and whatnot. Now that you look at the current 100 Thieves roster, right, that has like quote unquote newer faces. There's nobody with CS:GO clout. It's all like up and comers, people that actually grew and got a name within the Valorant scene. And then they actually invested more into the general management of like DDK and the coaching of Mike's and Sean. Do you finally see or do you finally agree with 100 Thieves that they sort of like saw that vision that you initially had now, and where do you see 100 Thieves now?
I know what you're trying to do. I have a lot of affection for DDK and Sean.
Yeah.
So you're not going to hear me say anything, especially DDK. I mean, he was
of
wearing
course.
F3 jerseys on Face It broadcast.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I love them. Like, I have no issue. I've played against, or not technically played, but like I coached against Sean Gares a couple times. Known him forever. There's a funny story about that roster where like we kind of, anyways. So I wish those guys the best. As for whether or not they are going to have the keys to do whatever, I imagine so. I imagine that that's why they brought them on. I mean, it was kind of a clout move because the truth is, and this is no disrespect, this is just a fact. It's not my opinion, it is a fact that the current roles they have now they had never done before. Right? So they got signed not having job experience.
Yeah.
So I imagine that they trust them enough to give them the keys to the kingdom.
Mhm.
Whether or not it was 100 Thieves learning their lesson is, I think, irrelevant and also something you're going to have to ask them. I don't even know.
Mhm.
But I do hope that they have the control because, as one player who left to another game said, man, it's interesting. I wonder, if they would have listened to us, how things would have worked out. So um, I do really hope the best for them in that
Mhm.
respect. As for the current roster they have, good luck.
Yeah.
I don't
Do
know.
you, do you, do you think that might be it? Because here, let's look at the roster now, right? Because this was the roster that was playing at Champions. So Osna, Bang, Derek, Stellar, and Will. The latest rumor that we've seen in the last half hour from George Gadez is saying that 100 Thieves actually did get accepted into the partnership program. So
Right. They were always
for,
going to get accepted.
yeah, and for me, Hector, it's not only on what they've accomplished in the past two events, but also what you have
Right.
done with the Hikos and the Nitros and the Ethans of the past as well. So here's the list of the possible teams that are actually going to make it into the partnership program, and you've been
Yeah.
ingrained pretty much of what's been going on in the back end. Is there anything in here that surprises you? Anything that confirms the rumors that you're hearing?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
your
The only
with
thing
your
I was
laugh, let's
wrong
start.
about is TSM and EG. I did not
Okay.
see that coming. But no, no, no. This is that's pretty much what I know to be true.
Mhm.
I think MIBR is troll, but I think
Yep.
it just speaks largely to what Riot, who they are and what they are.
Mhm.
Mm.
Um, and at the end of the day, those are the teams that are presented to us. I think there's a lot of good teams that probably deserve to be here that are not, and it's largely political. I mean, it's about favoritism. It's not
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
merit. I think so.
Mhm.
Well,
Well,
can
and
I?
financials.
Yeah, as I say, can I jump in there and
Sure.
kind of get your thoughts on maybe what you think the criteria is? Because I would think now TSM gets a little muddy with their history and Reggie and stuff like that on League of Legends side, but I would think that that kind of means well, right? Hey, TSM has been in our ecosystem for a long time just through League of Legends that they would make it into our Valorant stuff because Riot is investing in these teams. Are you familiar with kind of what the criteria was or have an idea
Yeah,
what
the
the criteria
criteria
was?
was so what's weird is Riot and I think it's because of plausible deniability. Riot hired a independent firm to make this decision
Oh.
so that it was hands off. What
Mhm.
I don't what I don't know, like I'm not an idiot, so like I imagine they still had some say, and
Mm.
even if some independent arbitrator made a decision or ruling, they couldn't just override it. But I don't know. But yeah, so they hired someone else to basically quote unquote vet these teams. It was financial. It was, I mean, like they wanted to see everything under the hood, cap tables, all sorts of accounting information, plans for like, um, content, plans for sort of like what they'll do on the grassroots side, plans for like what the organization is going to look like, or blah blah
Mhm.
blah blah. And then um, I don't technically know this for certain, but let's just say I have a good inkling that some of the decisions, like the LATAM and the Brazilian, for instance,
Mhm.
weren't made by like the USA team. So it's like they were allocated a certain number of positions based on the region you're in, and you fill it how you want. I also believe this is happening in APAC, which is why the large Korean consortium exists
Mhm.
because there's a lot of other countries with really good teams that got left out. But in APAC, it seems to be like not like a Filipino branch and a blah 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 blah. No, it's actually just you know the APAC crew. Whereas in North America, it was like, or the Americans were just by the NA crew. The LATAM was by the LATAM crew, and you choose who you want, I guess, and how
Mm.
you want, and that's sort of it. And Brazil the same. I'm still surprised they got allocated three, but unlucky.
Yeah. Zesh, anything you wanted to add on this?
I am I'm just trying, because I thought the MIBR thing was weird as well, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you have more experience in esports than I am, Hector. But I'm just trying to figure out why it would be MIBR. Like, from all the teams we have in South America / Brazil,
Yeah.
why MIBR?
Well, what's even more interesting is if you think back to the Immortals. So I remember Noah Winston, and all this. Oh my God. It's funny because they got kicked out of LCS, but is it George Milken who's the principal? I think so, of Immortals. So like it's weird that like they can kind of creep their way back in, but I guess it's like, you know, history. They probably got an injection of money, but then it doesn't. But this is where the financial argument doesn't make sense. This is why the EG thing to me is a lot of weird. But like, I just don't know if it's nepotism. I don't know if like, I just don't know. But it's just strange because MIBR shouldn't, by all conceivable metrics, they shouldn't have been a part of this unless Fallen is switching and we don't know, or he's going to be GM or something. Like, I don't know. Maybe I could hit up Gabriel and ask, but I have no idea. Like, to me, I don't understand that move, and I'd like to think I'm smart enough to maybe piece together, like, with deductive reasoning, what's happening, and I just can't.
My assumption could be around just the branding in general of these organizations, what they represent in tactical FPS, right? Because MRBR, as you've mentioned, if it's not Fallen, there was still like the Kogus of the world and the old school MRBR of Counter-Strike 1.6 that
right, but that's dead though, right?
Like, but it was like the first
that anymore.
It was the first team in that put Brazil on the map in Counter-Strike 1.6. Then you had the team that put them on the map for CS:GO with Fallen. Now you also have like
technically that was Keyed Stars,
Yeah, I guess
Keyed. So. That's when they made their run, and then LG. I mean, I guess, but like, it just doesn't make sense because by that logic, then why would Na'Vi have a Russian CIS foothold? I mean, I guess geopolitics make it a little bit complicated now, given all the M3C stuff. But like, I just don't know if that's a thing. Because then why is EG there?
Mm-hmm.
Because this EG is not the same as the old EG. Everyone knows that, right? Everyone has this assumption.
Yeah, well, even a team name changed from when it first started till now, but it's still like a good brand that was around for Counter-Strike for the longest time too, though.
Yeah, but this could have also been NIP.
Right.
Could have also been an IP, which also has a stronghold in Rainbow Six in that region in Brazil as well. I do get that.
Yeah, so I'm unaware as to I guess the reasons for Brazil. It's just, but I don't appreciate it on a personal level. I don't like it. I think obviously he sets a bad precedent, but I also think that this franchising in general did as well. So it's kind of just like, or this partnership program.
Yeah. Well, even with the partnership program, there was a tweet that came out earlier on today or yesterday. I think it was by Will Minder or by Slow, but it was like just a Pikachu meme of like organizations, signing players at a lower salary and then sells them with higher buyouts. Exactly this was. So it's on Bodork. My apologies, Bodork. So it was players being signed to orgs at small salaries but have very high buyouts, and then the orgs gets denied for partnerships. Is that in any way true of like one of the criteria being like
there's a certain team in NA in the tier 2 scene that are active in the tournament space that have really insane contractuals with younger players who did not know any better. So this is a thing that is going to happen. I mean, it's also why I think the Ascendant program is troll, because these anti-poaching, like if you look, I've owned an org, right? Ran an org, 8 majors in a row, RLCS championship, Crossfire. I mean, I can go on and on, right? About like all the titles you have at F3. I understand sort of what the game is, right?
Yeah.
You win Ascendant, and then you go back, and then you start over, but you start with a worse team because your players are going to obviously be poached the moment they leave the Ascendant program. You can't keep those players anymore. They're going to want to be a part of the show. So like even that, I think, is not really thought of, or like I don't think a lot of thought went into that. Just like I don't think they realized that completely destroying the tier 2 scene halfway through the year would cause this ripple effect where young people who don't have the financial literacy are going to be put in very awkward situations And now you have a very weird sort of like situation brewing in that,
But Wright
tier
also
2
did
scene.
mention at some point that there was going to be like restrictions around buying out like rosters and ascendant teams or whatnot. So I think there's still some sort of like
When you're in the
protection
league,
plan
but
as
what
well.
happens
Yeah.
when you reach the deadline? This is what I'm saying.
Mm,
When you reach the
okay.
deadline, you're not part of the league anymore. So what happens? I win it. Flip side comes back, right? We win it. Which everyone's asking me if I'm going to do that. Absolutely not. I'm not going to risk X amount of money on this program given the certain thing. Because like, if it's performance based, I'm as confident as anyone I could probably do it, right? But I'm not guaranteed to be in the show. Guaranteed a certain time allotment, and then I'm going to eventually have to do what Flipside did, right? Sell your players, sell your simples, sell your electronics, sell your, and then start back from ground zero after 2 years in the show. Now you go back and you're behind all the ascended teams. Now you have to find another young crew.
You're a farm team.
So it's like,
Almost.
so like it doesn't matter even if an ascended team wins the league. Yeah, there's expansion opportunities. Okay, but there are also complexity. You didn't make it, and I mean, I don't want to go down the whole list, but you get my point, right? Like, so yeah, there's anti-poaching, but like if you know the game, you know the game. Like, you just get your players to be like, yo, just wait, trust, and then what? You don't need executives or like VP of esports or GMs or anyone to make these things anymore. You just go to players, especially if you have like a franchise player, right? Like for 100 Thieves earlier on, it was Hiko. Hiko would create the dynamic of signing and approaching players, right? You don't, I don't need to do that. Go for Asuna and Dicey, ask him. He asked them. GG, well played.
GG well played.
Right? Like, so this is the day we live in now. You don't need, I mean, you could even use girlfriends. You don't even need, like, I don't even need to talk to you, Vansilli. I just holler at your chick and be like, hey, listen, respectfully, I can't reach out to him because of X, Y, and Z, but here's what I would like to do.
Right.
Or maybe I add you on the content creator program with the expectation that I'm going to get a package deal. Like,
what are we expecting to happen now? Right now that you have the yays that are just chilling because OpTic don't make it, and we have, I guess like anybody from TSM, I can't shout out TSM. I can't really think of a player to kind of put up there with, like, when you have OpTic out there, you have the from OpTic. But I mean, what does that look like for? Does Sentinels just sell off their entire roster? Like, how does all that work? How does the contracting stuff work now with OpTic? Are they just stuck with their OpTic contract until they have to be content creators until their OpTic or till their contract runs out? Like, what does that look like with some of these players like Yay tweeting all good? It's not all good, right?
Well, I mean, no, it is for them, but it's funny because Ye was available in January, and there are certain teams that goofed and screwed the pooch. So that's so funny to me that in 9 months now, it's like the world changed. He is the best player in the world now. So crazy. He's gonna be in no matter what. Sentinels are gonna release their roster, probably gonna buy OpTic or be in some bidding war, I imagine, with EG for OpTic, one of those two, or Sentinels is going to completely rebuild. I have no idea what's happening with Sick, who was, for me, their best player for a really long time. But like all those guys are going to end up on squads. So the current teams, like, TSM didn't make it, but the current rosters, like NRG, 100 Thieves,
Sentinels roster, if you're telling me that they're apparently built,
they're done. They're done. That's done. That's done. They're old. The old Sentinels on. The players are not really on Sentinels anymore. That roster will never come back.
Is that
for a multitude of reasons? Oh boy, you don't even know. I actually said something earlier which should have given you a clue. That's all I'm going to say about that. But that, so
Daniel, check the VODs.
Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah. I'll just say that, like, all these rosters, they're all going to change because now the scene is consolidated, which I think is the problem. I mean, I have tons of issues that I kind of already talked about, but like that's one issue, is that now there's a consolidation of talent. Yeah, he's going to find himself on an org because he is, for all intents and purposes, he is NA Valorant at its highest level. I mean, having Ye on the team almost guarantees a 70% win rate on the round.
Mm.
There's no other player in the world that does that.
I said right now, yeah.
To that
Yeah.
level of degree. So just say that like he's gonna be fine. For him, it is all good. He's chilling. Whether or not his roster stays together, that roster, I mean, it's more of a fairy tale story than people even understand. That I think is the funny part. And Ye is an even more fairy tale story than people even know because, as I said, he was available if you were smart enough in January. And then goes, you know what, guys, get on my back. I got this.
Yeah.
Right? It goes from they have all these question marks. Yeah.
How? So we talked about a little bit, Hector, about the tier 2 scene, about selling or signing players low, trying to sell high. What does this mean right now for even the current pros? So if you're going to tell me, for example, that if OpTic are not going to be part of the franchising, and there's maybe a bidding war between like EG, Sentinels, or whoever else, does now the salary of these players that are free agents so far are gonna just fucking escalate and just
There's an
blow up
org already ruined it though. There's an org that was already paying more money than they needed to for talent and didn't understand it because they don't have the efficacy, I would say, to sort of like, handle this. Those days are long gone. If I told you some of the salaries of some of these teams on these players, you'd be like, "Ooh, it's
how do you make the money back as an org at this point? So what was if you're an org owner, right? So let's say we talk about F3. Let's say we talk about F3, and then there was an opportunity for you to join the partnership program, but you still had to pay an exuberant amount for a super team, right? That you want to build. And now that you don't have to pay a slot into the partnership program with Riot, therefore not having to pay, let's say, like $20 million for a franchise spot, such as other organizations, such as other leagues, how do you still make your money back in the long run if the salaries of the players are so exuberant? Why are these orgs? Why do we want to be a part of the partnership program too?
Well, for one, esports. I mean, it's weird to say esports is the new hot thing because it's been around a while, but that fervor continues. I'll say it like this:
fresh.
For Flipside, here's why I can't, because our failure at Flipside, my failure at Flipside really was I could never raise money. Now you could argue, why was I not able to raise money, which is an entirely different conversation that we can get into, despite the fact that I have multiple. I mean, we have I'm almost world championships on one hand. You know what I mean? Like I'm almost out of digits, right? So how is that possible? How in an era where everybody was able to raise money were you not? I could say it's maybe my personality, maybe it's the way that I present myself. You can say all these other things, but at the end of the day, you still have to produce. There's a lot of esports teams that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars that have never produced. They're on Series Ds. So at some point, where was the industry? Where was the course correction in the industry? And that I think is the real problem, because at the moment you say, well, how do people make money? Well, this is why I wouldn't bring back F3 specifically for this tier 2 ascendant program, because even though I know I can perform and probably team like Nearest Airport to the place where they can compete with some of these top teams, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be able to make the money, because I couldn't even. Flipside's biggest year in terms of sponsor revenue was like $550,000. Compare that to 100 Thieves, which is over $20 million a year in partnership. By the way, 100 Thieves, best partnerships team in all of gaming. Killers, man.
Not just a hoodie org.
Brother, I learned so much. I learned so much just from I learned a lot on the marketing side by just getting to understand, sort of, because I'm actually really cool with a lot of staff. Every mid-level staff member and lower, ask them what my relationship with them is like, right? Obviously contentious with like upper management, but that's for some of the things you mentioned here and some of the things you guys don't even know.
Yeah.
But as Vansilli, as you know, when it comes to like normal people or just a normal guy, not an asshole.
Yeah.
Right? But I know that there's levels to this. And I know that if you're not on my level, relax. Like, just trust me. Either you let me cook, right, and shop for the groceries, or you do it for me. But we can't have this like, hey, man, you're a pretend GM or pretend coach or pretend this. It's like, I either have the job or I don't, right? So, like, that's when you normally get like fire in me.
Yeah.
But at 100 Thieves, that org is built, I think, to be successful in a franchise system like this. Because this was already a popularity contest from day one. And now they don't have to pay money in it. There are other companies, which I'm not going to name because I don't want to be disrespectful, that are even in that don't have anywhere near the infrastructure or anywhere near the acumen to even be able to compete when it comes to that business side of this, which obviously makes me kind of think that some of these selections are sort of funny. But so like I can't do it on flip side. I was never good at marketing. I don't market myself very well. That's not what I do.
Yeah,
I don't live that life. I don't talk about living that life. I just live the life.
Yeah.
Right? I do the work. I do the things it takes to be successful. I don't need to talk to you about it, or whenever we lose, I don't need to get on camera and lie to the world about like what we're doing and how we're doing it every 2 seconds. I don't need to. I've never really liked doing interviews until you forced me to do one in December. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even like this shit. Like,
I thought you approached me, man. I thought
you
spoke to me, Hector. You're like, yo, we should start doing something. I was like, yeah, man.
Yeah, me and you, because you have obviously a long history, and it wasn't even around content, right? It was more for like younger players.
Yeah.
Because I started to see the issue with younger players. Well, not started, dealt with it even on the flip side, right? Don't forget, I'm the guy that chose Blade over Simple.
Yeah.
You know, because I know how difficult it is for the youth, but I also know sort of that once the power dynamic shifts from a parent and a young player, like once a player starts making more money than his parents, you can't even rely on discussing issues with the parent anymore and say, hey, listen, I'm having a problem here. It doesn't matter anymore. Once the foundation has shifted to they're paying their bills, it doesn't matter what the parent says. And now we put kids in a really weird. Now these kids that don't have a lot of education are antisocial. And what I mean by education is how many young tier 2 Valorant players dropped out of high school to play Valorant full time, or barely graduated out of high school and definitely don't want to go to college. It's much different in sports because at least in like real sports, you are forced
to go to school.
So what I wanted to do with you was we need almost like a big brother program. We need to like actually teach these people. And I didn't want to create like these stupid North American associations for players, which are not that, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to actually be like, hey, listen, we have a lot of experience in sort of the esports space. We need to actually like try to educate these young ones as fast as possible because the things that they're about to deal with this next year, which was obviously this last VCT season, it's going to happen really fast, and it's going to happen, when they're largely underprepared for this. I had no idea that Valorant would destroy its tier 2 scene in May. Right? Even me and you were even unprepared for that because we were never talking about sort of like the education system around like, okay, you might be jobless. Now you need to figure out what you're going to do. Like I didn't even know this was going to happen. As a matter of fact, I goofed because I should have been in APAC earlier. I said no because of some other things that I think you know about some of them. Had I known
I don't know
what
anything,
would have
Hector.
happened,
I don't know anything.
right. Had I known what would have happened, even my career, I wouldn't have looked like I was like, not in the scene anymore. Because like what people don't know is like I was VOD reviewing with Gambit. I've been active. I just don't talk about being active. But I've been active because the entire time Valorant came out, I knew franchising was going to happen. That's what I was trying to prepare 100 Thieves for, which was their business with younger talent so that when franchising hit, you don't have to deal with maybe OGs that are flirting with retirement. You can have a pathway where the OGs get to either be coaches or stay a part of the system, but not have the pressures of having to compete every day when they're probably not able to do so. Like Nitro had a kid in the middle of our thing, and look how we looked without Nitro. We lost to, oh my God, I'm disrespecting them by not remembering their names. I'm so sorry. There was that Cypher player that like completely destroyed us in that Masters 1. That's so bad because this would be a good moment for him. But yeah, so just right, a group of randoms beat us without Nitro.
Right? I have to look back. Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel so bad for them because they deserved it too.
Keep going. I'll
they
find
beat
it.
us.
Keep going.
But the point was like they beat us and like they deserved like the recognition now. So that's kind of like unfortunate. But like look how we looked without Nitro. Nitro was going to be a dad, right? I have not had I would say the luxury of focusing on family first. I've always been career driven, which is why I am at my age still sort of around in esports and doing all this stuff. So Nitro, even though he's younger than me, and he's like a little brother, he had a kid first. So I couldn't even relate to him and help him as a coach to be like, hey, listen, look at the stress. Here's how we're gonna deal with the stress is like, we're gonna go lighter on practice today. I was still teaching, or I was still acting as if, we still had 8-hour days, 2 hour or plus 2 hour VOD review, and we had like all these things that I think I wouldn't say hurt him, but like just imagine I didn't have the life experience to even like adjust for him. How the hell are we going to adjust with 16, 17-year-olds, man?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like to be 17 now. I don't know what it's like to have gone through school in a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like to be 17 years old making more money than both my parents combined. I don't know what it's like to be a part of a system that is going to kill itself. And then I'm going to be like, so unlucky, like, so that's just the way I think the cookie crumbled.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, and sorry,
you live, you learn, right?
Just to go back, was it against the Carpe Noctem team?
Yes, Carpe Noctem. Yes,
yeah.
Carpe Noctem. Right, like
Silence was playing. Yeah. Okay.
Right. And like at that time, I was so blissfully unaware. I mean, there were reasons for it, but like that's when I started to realize how important Nitro was to the team and how important it was having an Omen anchor. So this is what we didn't understand at the time. Like now you see players that can't anchor on Omen. Nitro was doing that from the beginning. And like we were cheating off of him. So it's like I had no idea how important Nitro was until that happened. So what I started to think was like, oh man, if Nitro, what happens if Nitro takes his family more seriously? We need to be prepared. We need to have the next generation, just like we found Asuna and not Dicey, but just like we realized that putting Asuna and Dicey around an older crew might be good. What if then Asuna and Dicey become the older crew and we can I mean, imagine that roster, right? It would have been more than likely Aleko, Zekin, B-Dog. I mean, could you imagine that going into this franchise league right now?
Yeah,
Especially Cryo and Xander, who should have been on our roster, by the way. Imagine, look what Cryo was doing over there. And by the way, they said he was dog water. The assumption was that this kid wasn't good. Can you hear me, Vansilli? They said he wasn't good. And I'm sitting here like, guys, if he's not good, why is he destroying you in every scrim that we play? I don't understand. Like, please, someone tell me. Right?
Because he wasn't a CS player or anything like that. Didn't have that name. So
Unlucko, bucko.
Everybody's going to get looked over, and that's what happens.
Crazy, man. It's just so crazy how these things happen. And now it's happening again in an even worse way than I ever thought. Because now the consolidation of all of this makes it to where like all these rosters are gone. Now it's basically like, all right, I'm speculating. I don't know for sure. And I have not talked to Ethan at all. NRG is what? Ethan? And then EEIU, obviously. Outside of that.
Yeah, I can't just suspect my buddy James.
Yeah, Hazed?
Guys. We're talking Valorant here. This is no disrespect. But with all the available free agents, you need to start thinking about this, right? Shazam, he's probably going to stay content creation, not player, obviously. But like there are other available IGLs. The point I'm making is what we just discussed now with me talking about like all the old stuff, 100 Thieves, all that nonsense. It's happening again, and it's even more volatile now.
Yeah, that's of course. It is definitely going to be volatile because we got. You have to sign everybody to get them ready for February, so shit's gonna get fucking crazy for now until the next couple of months.
Actually, first roster lock is in October. Not trolling.
Yeah.
The first round. It's not like a hard cap. Like it's not like a hard lock.
You got to soft put in like 3 of your 5 or something like that in October. I've heard about that as well.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. And then there's going to be some tournament which hasn't been announced yet for some reason in November. I don't have obviously all the details on that, but I know it exists.
Is that like a blast, like a third party something popping up?
I think it's Red Bull. Yeah, but like I said, I know enough because I'm good at my job and I know what I'm doing, but I don't know all the details because I'm, not as plugged in there as I have been in the past. with Red Bull.
Let's try to see if we can change the topics a bit too. We'll do one last rounds of questions as well, because I think we might have some hard outs very soon with you as well, Hector. So Zescht, I'll let you take over here with the.
So you seem to be decently connected, and there were some rumors coming around of like 1-2 EU player potentially switching to NA, particularly the Mech guys. Is there anything you picked up with NA orgs or like the entire roster market?
I'll tell you this: if I'm in, so I've already said I VOD reviewed with them. I have a good relationship with Gambit because even back then, I'll tell you this: if I get a GM role, there's already one player who I'm bringing if I can to NA.
Redgar.
And I'm already doing as much as I can. I love Redgar. I can't confirm or deny. I will just say that it's a player that I game planned against specifically on that roster in Berlin. I'm going to do everything I can. Absolutely everything I can. I have a good relationship with him. I don't know if it'll work. So I'm not even like trying to put this out there to put any pressure. Absolutely not. Even if I get turned down, the relationship is not going to change. But there is absolutely guys on that team that are capable of coming to this country and outperforming some of those players. And more importantly, I think that roster should have never broken up. And I'm actually still pretty upset with all of them, actually. I actually told some of them this because I think they trolled. I think that roster did not have to break. Well, I mean, I guess pre these crazy offers that they're probably getting. But the roster was going to break up anyway. But and that's what I mean. So I will absolutely say you can hear this first now. If I get a GM position, there's one guy I'm bringing. So if everyone else, they better do the same, because that roster had some killers. That roster had some killers. So they probably will stay in the MEA because I imagine they're going to want to be closer to home. But if I have my way, boy, that roster.
Near impossible to get them out at this point in time. Near impossible anyway.
Yeah. Well, Hector, I think that's it for us right now, man. As again, always a pleasure to have you on. I think every time you come on, we always need a next part because we never have enough time. So we'll try to find another time to have you on for part 4. Never apologize, never all G. Just be like, see you next time, you know. But Hector, what's coming up next for you? Because we were mentioning at the beginning of the interview that you were hanging out and helping out nearest airport. What's next with them? What's next with you?
Toronto Land is probably next, so I'm probably going to go there and try to help them out. They were cool.
I'll see you there.
Right. So super quickly with nearest airport, what's good is they were able to, because of, I guess, respect that we've had mutually between me and some of those players, they're able to sort of like live through some of the ideas I wanted to do and some of the concepts I wanted to do on 100 Thieves. Like they have their own training regimens. Like it's actually crazy. Like they have like position coaches. Like I created. Yeah. Let's just say like they are my preparation almost for everything I plan to do in the franchise league. They're an unpaid roster, so obviously the hours are much different. But in terms of like structure and sort of approach, they've been a really good guinea pig. Especially, I'd say like Aleko. I think say this out of respect for him, and I'm sorry, Ian, if I'm killing your time, but everybody should know this. I think he's grossly misunderstood in some of the ways I think people may misunderstand me. Like they misunderstand sort of passion or anger and frustration for like unquote he's a bad dude
or toxic.
Right. A lot of times people don't listen to what you say. They care more about how you say it. And I think this is a real big problem we have in society now. It's like, it's like me and Vansilli. I'm always honest with him, sometimes even brutally. Even Tanner. Tanner, I don't have issues with you on a personal level, but even I've disagreed with you vehemently. Man, I think you're trolling here. This was cap.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be thrown as shade. It's just, as an individual, I have enough respect to you to go, hey, I think what you did here was kind of troll, and I didn't appreciate that. And it's not that what you did was egregious. It was more just, I feel like I have to sometimes go to bat for my people, or even sometimes myself. I don't publicly chastise anybody, right? I always try to go privately and tell you straight up like what the deal is. And, and we've had mutual discourse go back and forth, and it doesn't always mean I'm correct. But if I come to you, I've put enough thought into what I'm saying. Or if I say like, man, what the hell were you doing there? Don't worry about me going, what the hell are you doing? Actually go, damn, what was I doing there? Why? Because I put a lot of thought into what I say before I say it. Just because I'm coming at you, abrasively, that doesn't necessarily mean there is venom involved. Sometimes it's just we don't have the time to go, hey, Tanner, I just want you to know on this round, it's just I'd much rather be like, hey, man, you trolled this round and move on. And you trust me enough. And if you go, I don't think I trolled, then we watch the tape. So I think players like Aleko have been a really good breath of fresh air for me, because if you listen to what people say about him and actually how he is and how he is as a teammate, same with Abdo. Abdo, you're going to Toronto land. Abdo, everybody thinks he's an ass because he's like loud and he'll like, grab you by the neck. But the truth about Abdo is he's a really good teammate. He just, when he's frustrated, he just goes, right? Like, what the hell are you doing? Some people might go, what the,
it's how passionate you could be. And I think some people read the passion wrong sometimes when you really want to win and you have the right pieces, but people just see it as confrontational stuff. So that's
it's
totally
just time. We don't have the time. Just like I don't have the time here. We don't have time. So sometimes
exactly that.
so sometimes to avoid wasting time, you just got to be as direct as possible and as honest about it. And I'm not so afraid of what you think of me that I'm not going to tell you the truth.
Yep. That's why we're always going to be happy to have you on the show as well, Hector.
All right, boys.
So thanks so much for hanging out, dude.
Take care. Hey, Zescht, it was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Have a wonderful time. Take care.
Yeah, man.